A family vacation, a party on the open sea, a floating city of lights and sound. It's supposed to be an escape. But for one family, that escape twisted into a nightmare of unanswered questions. In the early morning hours of September 4th, 2023, as the Carnival Conquest cruise ship sailed back toward the port of Miami, 26-year-old Kevin McGrath vanished. One moment he was there, the next he was gone. The Coast Guard would go on to search a staggering 300 square nautical miles of ocean, but found absolutely no sign of him. Police found no evidence that he fell overboard, and Carnival stated that U.S. Customs and Border Protection systems never detected him getting off the ship. It was as if he had simply stopped existing. In September 2023, the McGrath family, along with a group of 43 friends and relatives, boarded the Carnival Conquest in Miami for what was meant to be a joyful 3-day cruise to the Bahamas. The trip was planned to celebrate the 60th birthday of the family patriarch, Sean McGrath. At the center of the celebration was his son Kevin, a U.S. Army veteran who had served multiple deployments, a father of 2 young children, and someone who had recently moved back to Florida to be closer to his parents. Friends and family described him as the life of the room, always upbeat, always present. He was not someone who would simply disappear without a trace. The cruise began exactly as expected. The ship buzzed with music, dancing, and long weekend energy. Cell phone videos captured Kevin laughing and dancing with friends just hours before he vanished. He was surrounded by people who knew him well, including his twin brother Andre. It was one of the safest environments imaginable, a contained ship at sea. As the final night unfolded, no one realized that the celebration was quietly approaching a moment that would turn into a lifelong mystery. The family planned to have one last breakfast together before disembarking. Kevin never showed up for it. The last known hours of Kevin's movements are pieced together from brief encounters and digital records. On the evening of Sunday, September 3rd, his father Sean stopped by Kevin's cabin around 10 p.m. to drop off luggage tags and remind him to meet for breakfast at 7:30 a.m. That would be the final conversation they ever had. Kevin continued enjoying the night. Around 2 a.m., on Monday, September 4th, his twin brother Andre saw him for the last confirmed time. Video footage shows Kevin dancing, appearing relaxed and happy, nothing out of the ordinary. At 3:30 a.m., Kevin's keycard was used to enter the cabin he shared with Andre. That keycard swipe is the final concrete data point, placing Kevin anywhere on the ship. After that, the timeline collapses into silence. Andre later said he thought he may have heard Kevin leave the cabin sometime between 5 and 7 a.m., but he couldn't be certain. By 7:30 a.m., as the ship prepared to dock in Miami, the family gathered for breakfast. Kevin wasn't there. At first, they assumed he was sleeping after a long night, but as the ship began disembarking and Kevin still hadn't appeared, concern turned into panic. The family searched the massive vessel, checking decks, lounges, corridors, calling his name. He wasn't in the cabin. He wasn't anywhere. When they finally left the ship, the horrifying realization set in. Kevin wasn't with them. They immediately reported him missing to the Miami-Dade Police Department, triggering an investigation into a man who had vanished from what was essentially a floating city. Law enforcement boarded the Carnival Conquest and conducted a thorough search, while Carnival's security team carried out their own internal investigation. Nothing turned up. The U.S. Coast Guard launched a massive search operation, deploying helicopters and scanning waters near Port Miami and along the ship's route. Over 3 days, they covered roughly 3,300 square nautical miles of ocean. No debris, no clothing, no trace of Kevin McGrath. The search was eventually suspended. Attention then turned to surveillance and ship systems. Carnival stated that its overboard detection system, designed to alert crew if someone falls into the water, was never triggered. Even more baffling, Carnival said Kevin was not detected by surveillance systems or by U.S. Customs and Border Protection during disembarkation. There was no evidence he fell into the ocean, and no evidence he ever walked off the ship. Despite the unresolved disappearance, the Carnival Conquest was cleared to sail again. Passengers later revealed they had never been informed that someone was missing while they were still on board, meaning potential witnesses were never alerted. Public frustration grew after a TikTok video went viral showing a passenger receiving a customer satisfaction survey from Carnival rather than a request for information about Kevin. The case became defined by what was missing. There was no surveillance footage showing Kevin's final movements, no alarm, no buddy. On a ship covered in cameras, his disappearance seemed almost impossible. Investigators were left to wonder whether Kevin somehow passed through a rare blind spot or whether something happened inside the ship itself that cameras failed to capture. The timeline offered no comfort. From the keycard swipe at 3:30 a.m. to sunrise, Kevin's whereabouts remain unknown. A contained environment had somehow swallowed him whole. Adding to the mystery were revelations about Kevin's personal life. Court records showed he was on probation for an aggravated assault charge from 2022 and had not received permission from his probation officer to travel on the cruise. This fueled speculation about whether he may have attempted to disappear intentionally, though doing so without triggering border systems or leaving evidence would have been extraordinarily difficult. With facts exhausted, theories filled the void. Some believe Kevin may have fallen overboard in an accident, possibly influenced by alcohol or poor lighting. Others argue that the lack of alarms and video evidence makes that explanation unlikely. A more controversial theory suggests he may have tried to evade probation, though no evidence supports how that could have been accomplished. The most unsettling possibility is foul play, that Kevin may have been involved in an altercation that ended tragically. There is no proof of this, but in the absence of answers, the theory lingers. What remains is a father's birthday trip that ended in permanent loss. A young veteran and father of two vanished from a place designed to keep people contained and accounted for. Helicopters searched the skies, investigators combed the ship, and yet nothing explained where Kevin McGrath went. His case remains open. His family remains without closure, and the Carnival Conquest continues sailing, carrying with it one of the most haunting unanswered questions at sea. How does a person disappear without a trace, while surrounded by thousands?